The infinite library phenomenon is something every gamer knows well. That moment when we look at our list of games and realize we have dozens, sometimes hundreds, of titles that we've never even opened. And the strangest thing is that even with so many games waiting for us, we still feel that urge to buy just one more that's on sale. It's almost like collecting possibilities each game bought. Seems like a promise of future fun, a someday I'll play this that rarely comes. Big promotions, like the famous summer sales, are the perfect fuel for this cycle. The psychology behind discounts is strong. Seeing a $60 game for $10 seems like an unmissable opportunity. And that's where the trap comes in. The feeling of saving money mixes with the illusion of need. Instead of thinking this is cheap, we think I need this now before it's gone. It's marketing playing with our fear of missing out, the famous FOMO, fear of missing out. And when bundles come along, the effect is even more curious. The idea of getting 10 games for the price of one sounds irresistible, even if half the list has absolutely nothing to do with our tastes. We buy because the package seems advantageous, not because we really want each item. It's as if the simple act of acquiring gives us a small dose of satisfaction, a feeling of instant reward, until it hits us and we realize we've bought another handful of titles that will probably never leave the pile of shame. Deep down, this compulsion also speaks to how much we value the idea of potential. Buying games is, in part, buying time we don't yet have, experiences we want to live, a collection that represents who we are as gamers. But perhaps the secret lies in learning to appreciate what we already have, playing, slowly rediscovering that forgotten title, and remembering that behind the infinite digital library, the most valuable thing remains the time and attention we give to each real game. The shame of the backlog arises when that giant library of games begins to weigh more as a burden than as a promise of fun. Many accumulated games generate the famous paralysis of choice. The more options appear on the screen, the harder it is to choose just one, and this increases anxiety, the chance of simply not playing anything. Instead of feeling excited when opening the list, a mixture of guilt and indecision hits, as if any choice could be the wrong one. Then comes perfectionism, that thought of I'll only play when I have time to enjoy it in the perfect way. Instead of playing a little today, the person waits for the ideal scenario. Free weekend, zero fatigue, no worries, everything aligned. As this perfect moment rarely comes, the result is procrastination. The game stays still, the backlog grows, and the feeling of failure increases, further reinforcing the shame of not having started anything. In addition, the gigantic AAA games help to fuel this burnout. Campaigns of 80, 100 hours, maps full of icons, repetitive activities, and a feeling of second job drain mental energy. After finishing or abandoning some titles like this, the brain begins to associate big game with tiredness and obligation, not with rest. And this kills the desire to even start something new. Deep down, this shame of the backlog is a mix of too much choice, too high expectations, and too little time. When video games become a source of stress, the hobby loses its meaning. The way to alleviate this is to accept that you can't play everything, that quitting a game is normal, and that playing half an hour today, imperfectly, is still much better than spending another day facing the list without touching anything. The quick audit of the library is almost like doing a mental cleanup of your backlog. In a few minutes, you transform that chaotic list into something lighter and more useful. Using Steam's own filters helps a lot. Sorting by hours played, filtering by genre tags, by date of acquisition, or even by game size makes it clear what you've already explored, what you've never touched, and what no longer makes sense to be there. This organized view reduces the feeling of digital chaos, which in itself reduces stress and that silent anxiety of I have too many games and I don't play anything. From there, it's worth being very honest and starting to mentally mark, or with categories, collections, 3 simple groups: played, won't play, and maybe someday. The played group is for what you've already experienced enough, even if you haven't finished it. Won't play is for everything that, looking at it today, no longer arouses any real interest. This label is not an eternal sentence. It's just a way to take this weight out of the field of vision and leave accessible only what really has a chance of being opened. If you work with the Steam market, key sites or physical copies there. Is also the sell or trade category. Games that no longer excite can become balance, credit, or even new titles that make more sense for your moment. Many people also use external tools or backlog sites precisely to export the library, filter by tags and Metascore, and create leaner lists than the original mess of the store. This active curation returns the feeling of control. Instead of being pulled by the library, you start to decide what continues or not being part of it. Finally comes the most liberating tip. Delete, hide, or exchange without mercy everything that doesn't minimally animate you today. Digital is not sacred. If the game only generates guilt, it has become junk, and digital decluttering has been proven to improve focus, mood, and sense of well-being. In the end, a smaller library, but full of games that really call you, is infinitely more valuable than an infinite wall of icons that only feed the shame of the backlog. One of the simplest ways to unlock the desire to play is to create clear rules for the backlog, almost like a mini personal mission system. Prioritizing the shortest games first, especially those under 5 hours, gives a quick sense of progress. You finish more things in less time and see the list. Shrink for real. This quick win loop helps break the paralysis of choice and returns that good feeling of closing a game and moving on to the next with lightness. Another powerful strategy is to consciously limit what you play per period. For example, 1 game per genre per month. Instead of filling your head with 10 giant RPGs at the same time, you choose 1 RPG, 1 short indie, maybe a Metroidvania, and a multiplayer to play that month. This reduces genre burnout, maintains variety without becoming a mess, and forces you to give real attention to the chosen titles instead of jumping from icon to icon without commitment. For those who suffer a lot from indecision, the random playthrough becomes almost a psychological relief. Using a sorter like Choice Roulette, random generators or sites that choose a game from your library takes the responsibility out of your head. You define basic filters, genre, duration, platform, and let the tool decide. This turns the choice into a small, fun event, breaks perfectionism, and avoids that infinite cycle of opening the library, scrolling the list, and closing without playing anything. The secret is to choose a system and commit to it for at least a few weeks, as if it were a personal challenge. Short first, 1 per genre per month, or total draw work. Precisely because they reduce the number of decisions you need to make and transform the backlog into something playable, not oppressive. When the brain understands that there is a defined path, the energy that used to go to doubt begins to go where it really matters. Sit down, press, start, and finally play. Some tools transform the backlog from villain to ally, and the first step is to use Steam collections well. With them, you can create static or dynamic collections, organizing the library by genre, time played, status finished, backlog in progress, or even by tags from the store itself. This painted leaves everything visually separated. Instead of facing an infinite list, you see clear shelves like short, long, multiplayer to finish this month, which greatly reduces the feeling of chaos. To plan what really fits into your routine, howlongtobeat.com is almost mandatory. The tool shows time estimates for main story, main plus extra, and completionist, and also allows you to import the Steam library to sort everything from shortest to longest. Thus, you can set up strategies like finish the ones under 5 hours first, or choose a long game consciously, already knowing what you're getting into in terms of hours. If the idea is to follow your gamer journey as a diary, Backlog D enters the combo very well. It works like a letterbox of games. You catalog what you're playing, what you finished, make custom lists, and see statistics of genres, platforms, and periods played. This not only helps to control the backlog, but also gives that extra motivation to mark a game as completed and visualize your evolution over the months. For those who like to mess with the library at a more advanced level, apps like Steam Library Manager and similar help to move games between disks, make backups, and even organize by folders and profiles, without depending only on the standard interface. With this type of tool, it's easier to separate what stays installed, what goes to the cold HD, and what can even be uninstalled without fear, leaving your setup focused only on the games that really have a chance to be played now. Transforming Backlog into fun involves creating challenges that give a theme to play, instead of just opening the library and standing still on the choice screen. When you enter a scheme like 30 days, one game per day, each session becomes almost an event. Today is the day to test something specific, even if it's only for an hour, to decide if this game stays or leaves the list. This takes some of the weight off the guilt of having accumulated too many games and brings back that feeling of play, of experimentation. The cool thing is, when these challenges become a group thing, like doing a backlog battle with friends, you can combine simple rules: who finishes more games until the end of the month, who closes that gigantic RPG first, or even a cooperative challenge, everyone playing the same title and commenting on Discord. The point here is not only to clean the list, but to transform the walk into an inside joke, meme, achievement print. That I finally finished this, shared. Communities like our Steam and our Patient Gamers breathe exactly this climate of "we are all stuck, let's laugh at it together." In our Patient Gamers, the vibe is more about accepting the slow pace, telling how it was to finally finish something from years ago, discussing Backlog without shame, almost like a support group for those who are tired of the race of releases. Already in our Steam, there's a lot of talk about promotions, giant libraries, and people showing progress or total failure in the mission to cope with so many games. Events like the Steam Next Fest can also become part of this game instead of more fuel for accumulation. You can create a mini personal challenge. During the Next Fest, choose only 3 demos to play for real, write down impressions, and decide calmly what really deserves to enter your wish list, instead of installing everything. Setting realistic goals for the backlog is almost like signing a peace pact with your own library. Instead of trying to cope with everything, choosing 5 games for 2026 already completely changes the relationship with the hobby. You transform an impossible mountain into a clear path with a few well-defined steps. This conscious limitation reduces anxiety, increases the chance of actually finishing what you started, and still creates a sense of purpose in each choice. To keep this plan alive, it's worth using simple spreadsheets or backlog apps to track progress. You can record what these 5 games are, at what point you are in each one, how many hours you have already invested, and what remains to be done: finish the campaign, close DLC, platinum, etc. Seeing this data evolving throughout the year reinforces the feeling of achievement and reminds you that you are advancing even if the pace is slow. The focus stops being how many games are missing in the entire library and starts being, how is my plan for this year going? Psychologically, working with small and achievable goals in hobbies greatly increases motivation and well-being. Each completed game reinforces the idea that you are able to finish what you start, which generates that positive impulse to move on to the next on the list. Instead of guilt for everything that was stopped, you start to feel proud of the games that were part of your year, almost like chapters of a gamer diary. In the end, the message is simple. Your library is a treasure, not a prison. It exists to give you pleasure options, not to charge you for performance. When you choose a few games to live for real, record this path, and leave the rest on hold without guilt, the video game returns to the place where it should always be: a source of rest, discovery, and joy in your time and in your way.